Grab your cup of coffee. Sit down for a story. Let's all go exploring. Making it after 40. Making it after 40. Making it after 40.
Hello, friends. Thank you for joining me for this week's episode of Making It After 40. I am your host, Lisa Rodriguez. I am an actor and writer who is still trying to make it after the age of 40. On this show, we explore what it means to be an artist trying to make it as a middle-aged person. Before I get into today's episode, I wanted to see how many listeners would be interested in like a Patreon type thing. Maybe weekly, I do like a little short podcast and kind of fill you in on what's going on with me and my ups and downs and my thoughts on this process of pursuing my own career and the balance with, or as our prior guest Tish said, the harmony of making that work with my family and my job and my art. So you get a little bit more insider info as to what's going on in my life, and we can make it like a really affordable thing, like $2 or $3 a month. Anyway, if that seems like something you'd be into, just leave me a comment, send me a message on Instagram. All right. So today my guest is Charles Green. Charles is an Atlanta-based actor who found success in his late 50s and 60s. As you'll hear, Charles pursued his career in his 20s, realized that he craved stability, and changed careers. Then, on the verge of retirement, he decided to give it another shot. And boy, did it pay off. His first paid role back in the industry was opposite Anthony Hopkins, and he hasn't stopped working since. Interviewing Charles was delightful, and I'd like to give a big shout out to prior guest Betty Monroe for connecting us. Enjoy the show. I am so excited to share our first sponsor, Rustic Winds. Based out of San Diego County, Rustic Winds is a family-owned and operated small business that produces handmade artisan soy candles and bath and body products. Rustic Winds uses IFRA-regulated and certified fragrances, and their products are palm-free, vegan, and made from organic oils. I love Rustic Winds products. Their custom blends of scents are incredibly delicious, and they are free of phthalates, sulfates, and parabens. It really doesn't get better than that. I personally have been trying to cut back on plastics, so I ditched my shower gel in that plastic bottle and switched to using their cold-processed bar soaps. My personal favorites are birthday cake and honeysuckle jasmine. If you're looking to support small business for your holiday gifts, or maybe you're looking to change things up with your regular body care routine, please check out Rustic Winds on their website at www.rusticwinds.com or check them out on Instagram using their handle @RusticWinds. For my listeners, they're offering new customers 15% off. Use code MAKINGIT, MAKINGIT. Check them out today. Okay, so today I have Charles Green on the show. Charles, you go by Charles, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure. Charles is an actor based out of Atlanta, and actually our past guest Betty Monroe sent me your way, and when I started looking at your Instagram, and internet stalking you, I thought, wow, this guy is perfect for the show.
Yeah, I really should be on, Making It After 50.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I was looking at your IMDb last night, and holy cow, man. Just in 2022, you had booked, there's like 9 credits up, and then you have like pending, you have like another, like, I don't know, 8 that are, some of them won't come out till 2023, but like, man, you have been busy. You book a lot.
Two actually missing off IMDb, and then I'm shooting something next week. So more to come for 2022.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So, I like to start off the show with having our guests kind of give us a little bit of background of how you ended up making it after 50. Yeah. What is your little life story that led you? I mean, I read some of it, but I'll let you share it in your words.
Okay, well, we'll start from the beginning. I spent most of my childhood in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and some friends down the street, I was 12 at the time, and some friends down the street said, hey, we're auditioning for this community theater production of the musical Oliver. Why don't you come along? It was summer. I didn't have anything to do. So I went, and I ended up being one of the people considered for the lead role. I didn't get it, but I got in the show, and that sort of started the journey. Again, I was 12 at that time. I was in 7th grade, and junior high was not the best experience for me. And I found a lot of comfort in getting involved in community theater. So it was, for me, it was a bit of a lifesaver.
Yeah, I think it's a safe haven for a lot of kids, I think.
Yeah. And then I just, I continued to do community theater, and then I went to the local college in Lake Charles, and I continued to do theater there. To be safe, I got a speech education degree. And then I got my MA in theater at University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and finally my MFA at University of New Orleans.
Yeah, so, you did it all. You started off with a very heavy creative career. Yeah.
I did. I work. The sad thing was none of these programs offered TV and film acting. So it was strictly theater, which I'm not knocking, because I think some of the best TV and film actors are theater actors. So
yeah, I would agree with that.
So in 1979, when I graduated in May of 1979 from University of New Orleans with an MFA, I decided, where am I going to go next? New York, LA. I didn't know anybody in New York. I knew one person in LA, so it was LA I went. And my friend Garland Riddle, he was a costume designer there. I knew him from University of New Orleans. And I slept on his couch for maybe the first 6 weeks there. He was doing costumes for different dinner theaters. And so the way I learned LA was he gave me a Thomas guide. People in the no idea what a Thomas guide is.
I had one of those.
You do? Good. And he said, okay, I need this, here, and here. Here's a Thomas guide. Here's a card. Go for it. So that's actually how I learned Los Angeles very quickly that way. I then did a play in 1979. Again, my first summer there. And it was a play written and directed by Jeannie Berlin, who was nominated for an Oscar for The Heartbreak Kid. Many years ago. She kind of dropped out for a while, and now she's coming back as the strong actress that she is. Yeah. And during that play, there was a woman there I'm going to name drop a lot.
Okay.
And this name is great. Her name is Gay Goodenough. And that's her name. And she said, a friend of mine has auditioned for a movie. You're the same type as he is, and I think you're a better actor. And I know the casting director. So she got me an audition with this casting director, and I went in with the producers and everything, and I booked it. It's not the most notable role, but it was called Happy Hooker Goes Hollywood, and I played the lawyer George. My first time on TV, in this case a film, and it was a real learning experience. I go back now, I always heard, okay, theater actors overact, so, underplay everything. And I look back then now and go, oh my God, did you underplay? Like, too much. Well, anyway, so that casting director asked me, he says, who's your agent? Where do I send the check to? And I said, I don't have one. And she called up people. I mean, Gersh, William Morris. I mean, she got me some great interviews. I ultimately went with a smaller agency because I felt like I didn't want to be lost in, the world of William Morris's, for example. Yeah. And this particular agency specialized in African-American actors. Their biggest star at that time was Malcolm Jamal Warner on The Cosby Show. So I thought, wow, I'll be the only white guy on a predominantly black agency. What could go wrong? Well, I learned quickly that my agent said, you're in LA now. It's big. We have to stereotype you. And I said, yeah, but I come from a repertory background. I can do a variety of things. No. You're going to have to be young, business-suited nerd in glasses roles. And that's all they sent me out on. So auditions were few and far between. I did some really good stuff. Like I worked 5 days on The Golden Girls. Had a great role on that back in '88, and I think I finally got my SAG card through my second SAG job. I believe was Matt Houston, popular show in the early '80s. But for most of it, it was pretty frustrating. Mm-hmm. One thing I regret is I wish I'd taken some more TV film acting classes, not only just to build that muscle, but to make some connections and say, hey, who's your agent? I was a little afraid to switch agents. And I tell you right now, that was the wrong thing. I really should have hustled.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. So make a long story short, by 1987, I'd been in the business like about 7 years now. I got burned out and decided that I would do something else. So I started working on a 2-year course in public relations at UCLA Extension, and ultimately went into nonprofit healthcare. And so I pretty much gave up the business. I was with a repertory company in LA called Theater 40 that still exists, and I did some work with them. But for the most part, I said, you know what? I'm going to concentrate on this public relations career. And I have to admit that there was some major depression there.
Yeah.
Because you feel like a failure. Like I didn't do that, so I have to go do this. But I made the most of it and worked my way up to ultimately I got recruited by the Centers for Disease Control, or CDC, in Atlanta in 1999, and to be a health communication specialist to run some of the major cancer awareness campaigns, which I did for a few years. And I was at CDC in Atlanta from 1999 to 2013, so 18 years.
Oh, wow.
I still managed to do some theater here in Atlanta. They have a lot of equity theaters here, and they will hire not a specific amount of non-equity people. So I have quite a bit of credits in that. So I didn't give up acting. I just gave up TV film acting. Yeah. So let's fast forward to 2013. One of my goals was I was a guy who always liked security. And I remember there's an actor in LA that's still kicking around. His name is Biff Yeager. And Biff would do these acting, not workshops, but you do a 2-person scene for 3 to 5 minutes in front of a casting director. Okay. And there was one particular actor that would go every single week to this thing. And I would see him, damn good actor. But every week you could see the desperation happening. And ultimately, he quit his job, and ultimately he was living out of his car, and his performances were now terrible. And I thought, not me. I cannot do this. I need security. So ultimately, that's also the reason I went into public relations and left acting. So let's fast forward back to 2013. The idea is that I would retire in 2017. I'd have enough money in the bank to go back to Los Angeles and just play. And not have to worry about making a living. Yeah. Well, 2013 changed all that because I woke up one day and looked around and went, wait a minute, Hollywood has come to Georgia. Yeah. Because of the tax incentives. So I said, you know what? I got 4 years before I retire. Maybe I should take some TV film acting classes. And I don't know if you know the actress Crystal Carson. She does a workshop called Auditioning by Heart, which is fantastic. And she was in town, and I took it and seemed to do pretty good. And there was a fellow actor in there who said, you know what, you should come to this regular class that's here in Atlanta. So I did, and I went to audit. And that night he was pairing people up in scenes, giving them scenes, and they were short one person. So I got up with my friend and did the scene. And when I sat down, I felt this tap on my shoulder, and I looked over my shoulder, and somebody handed me a business card, and it was to an agency. And I come to find out the daughter of the owner agent was in the class, and she talked to me afterwards, and she said, you know, my mother really needs you. You need to have an agent. And me being in my LA mindset from the 70s, 80s, from the 80s, I said, oh, no, I can't drive around all day. I've got a job. And she says, no. They're taping now. They're taping stuff. Because we're big tapers in Georgia from way back when.
Yeah, that's what I heard. That
Yeah.
even back in like the day, you guys.
Yeah. You LA folks are having to catch up now post COVID.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
we've been doing it for years.
Yeah,
So,
you guys have the advantage.
yeah. So I signed with them, and I would say I signed with in August, and within 2 months, I had booked my first job, and it happened to be a one-on-one scene with Anthony Hopkins.
Oh my God.
Well, I'm doing a British accent, by the way, in front of Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
And the rest is sort of history. It just sort of took off. And once I was able to retire in 2017, July 2017, my first year, I made more money than I did at my present job at CDC. So it's been very good to me.
Yeah.
I'll stop talking now.
No. I mean, well, hey, it's a good time for you to retire from the CDC before all the pandemic stuff hit, huh?
That's true too. That's very true.
Yeah, you would have had your hands full, I'm sure. Although you were working with a cancer awareness, so maybe it was a different.
Right. And I think also, I think getting involved in 2013 was really good because not that the TV film industry in Georgia was in its infancy, but it was where, you would still get to know casting directors really well.
Yeah.
And,
well, you probably got your foot in the door and you've developed some great relationships with casting directors. And I mean, clearly it's worked out well for you because you book all the time.
I'm very fortunate, and I have some great agents, so I'm very happy about that. And I think for me also, whatever I was in my 20s isn't working like in my 50s and 60s.
Yeah. No, that was actually something that I was going to touch on because clearly you had the talent in your 20s to get some work and to do theater and all that. But for whatever reason, it wasn't working. What do you think that was? Do you think it was partially like type? Do you think it was like personal growth? The industry changed? I don't know. What?
I think one I had referred to is I should have networked more when I was in my 20s via classes. I should have been a little braver to explore other agents. I think that's one of the reasons. I think also as you get older, I think most people would say that they become more comfortable with themselves. They know themselves better. They have a lot more life experiences to bring to a role. And I think also I had a bad habit, now that I realize, is that I think as an actor, and going back to doing this during junior high when I didn't like myself very much, I didn't like what was going on to me, the bullying in junior high, that I got into acting because I could be somebody else. And I've learned now that you can't be somebody else. You have to bring a part of you to whatever character you're playing. Yeah. So, and to do that, you have to know thyself.
Yeah.
So I think in my 20s, I did not have that knowledge. I was on set with Ryan Quatain. I don't know if you remember him. Anyway, I was on set with him, and he's such a cool guy. And he said, I knew myself in my 20s. And I went, gosh, I would have given anything to do that. And he was he's always been successful since his 20s because he knew himself.
I'm in the same boat. In my 20s, I definitely did not know myself. And I was out here trying to go on auditions. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea. So I really relate to that. But just making the decision to step away and pursue something else, that's huge. I know you briefly mentioned that you went through some depression because you felt like a failure. And I can really relate to that. Even some days now where I'm, trying to make this work and I've had to take back on a full-time job,
right.
And it's hard. It's hard. And I think there's so much stigma. I don't know if this is the right approach, but I feel like there's so much stigma in society where you're either recognizable and super successful or you fail. And part of this reason that I started the podcast is because there are so many actors who are successful or, who book all the time, but then have dry spells. And it doesn't mean that it takes anything away from the success that they had. It's okay for us to be artists and also have that security. And I think it was really brave of you to make that decision to support your mental health and give yourself some security to get through that period. And in the end, it ended up paying off because you came back at the right time. And
yeah, I think that, that's one thing I learned about myself is that I needed security.
yeah,
I needed that money in the bank. I needed that security. And so stop beating yourself up, Charles. This is the way you are. So, and I do not regret being out of the business for 20, 30 years.
No, that was the best decision, I think.
Yeah, there were a lot of wonderful experiences with my jobs and just with life experiences itself. So that depression, beating myself up in the 30s, I've forgiven myself for that. And I understand where I come from. From a financial viewpoint, I need that. So that's good.
You gave yourself the gift of security now, because now you have a safety net that you didn't have before, and you could come into this work without any desperation, without any expectation. You literally, which is something we always talk about in my acting class right now, you said that you thought your plan was to come out to LA to just play. But I mean, you ended up getting to do it in Atlanta, which is even better because it's, where you're already at. But you gave yourself the opportunity to just come play. There was no weight on it. There was no desperation. There was no pressure at all to make this work. It was just you playing with your art again, you playing with that creative soul again. And I really commend you for that. That's really neat.
Thank you. Whenever I get like uptight about the business now, I just remind myself I'm here to play.
Yeah.
And I think that ability is also the reason why I tend to book quite a bit as well, because that pressure's off.
Yeah.
I can just play.
Yeah. I think that's the thing is like when the actors who are really amazing at their jobs, and even whether it's acting class or on TV or film, is that you can tell they're just playing. They're just playing with a role, and not all of us are allowed to give ourselves permission to do that. It's something that I've been working on personally, is giving myself permission to play, because I know for me personally, I get like a little uptight and get in my head.
Right. When you start taking it too seriously, I think that's when your performance start to not be as high.
Yeah. And I try to think back. Okay, Lisa, that energy you have when you're like just goofing around with your kids and you're making your husband laugh. Bring that energy to your audition.
Right. I think one of the things I've done, I think it's good to have an anchor, particularly when you're going to an audition. Like you just talked about your is it your son?
I have a 12-year-old son and a 3-year-old girl.
Okay. Well, maybe both of them, but maybe it sounds like the 3-year-old probably is the one that likes to play a lot more, right?
Yeah.
And it's just more uninhibited. To use her, let's say, as an anchor right before you go into an audition, just to think about her. First off, I think it grounds you that there's things out there in life that are much more important than you walking to an audition room. For me, I always like to look at something green. I'll look out a window, look at trees and stuff like that. That's sort of my grounding thing before I go into an audition. So I think it's important for any actor just to find that something that they can either think about or look at that grounds them before they get in. Because I don't know, just something about trees, and they're just always going to be there, and they're calm, and there's a lot more beautiful, important things going in life besides you stepping into this audition.
Yeah. I think that's a really important thing to remember, that it's just an audition. It's one audition. It's not going to make or break you.
Exactly.
And if you don't get this one, there's going to be another one.
Right. And it's not to say that there hasn't been some roles where I'm like, I really do want this.
Yeah. Yeah.
You will have those. You will have those. I mean, it's just human nature.
Yeah. So let me ask you, when you were coming back into it in 2013, what has been different, or what are you enjoying about being in the industry now versus when you were in your 20s? I'd love to hear that experience.
I guess acceptance for who I am and what I bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Respect.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm respected by quite a few casting directors, that they know I can deliver. I may not end up being the right fit, but they will bring me in for that. Speaking of which, I just want to go off on a sideline here.
Yeah,
one thing
sure.
I've also learned is that casting directors have their preferences.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all of us have our preferences.
Yeah.
And there's a casting director, for example, in town. I can't get arrested by her. But I had to come to terms with that. She's human. She has her particular people, or she has particular likes and dislikes, and that's okay. And fortunately, I have enough cast directors that do like me. But all of what I just said is, I think that's, and also it's sort of made me more comfortable in my skin.
I think there is like an acceptance with age, right? You kind of, I can only speak for myself, but in my 20s, I wanted to look a certain way. I wanted to be a certain way. And now, I'm 43. I've had a couple kids. My body is changing a little. So it's like, well, this is what it is.
Yeah.
And I think the sooner you can get there, from the conversations that I've had with past guests, it seems like the sooner you can get there, the better off you are.
Yeah. And also, I'm a lot more uninhibited.
Yeah.
I've done some things I probably wouldn't have done in my 20s, like being possessed in my tidy whities on Preacher, AMC's Preacher, or kissing a guy in Bad Trip, and so those are stuff that I probably would have in my 20s. Now I'm like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
You just want to play and have fun.
I just want to play and have fun.
Yeah.
And I think I think that also makes me a little more, I guess it's equivalent to somebody jumping out of an airplane, which of course I would never do. Right. But that idea of, wow, I broke through that inhibition. I was able to do that in my tidy whities. I was able to kiss a guy on screen. And that gave me a sense of satisfaction that I was able to, break through that barrier. And that's something I don't think I would have done in my 20s.
How do you think that informs your life outside of acting? Are you then also taking more risks or trying things that you've maybe always wanted to try outside of your acting life?
I haven't skydived yet.
Yeah.
Nor is it something I want to do. It's not on my bucket list. Has it influenced my life?
No.
I don't think so. I'm just trying to think of what chances I might have taken that I wouldn't have taken in my 20s. I can't say. Maybe it's just acting. I don't know. It's so funny because when I have to talk before people and be myself, it's a hell of a lot harder for me than to have a script in front of me. It's the funniest thing.
It is when you feel like the spotlight is on you. I tend to stumble, or I'll start to stutter or whatever, and I can be totally well spoken otherwise. But there's a moment where you're up there in front of everyone, and you realize oh, everyone's listening to me. Oh.
Yeah. And when I'm on set, I don't feel that.
Yeah.
I don't feel that. It's just important for me to, just look at the other actor I'm speaking to and have our own little world, just the two or three of us.
Well, if you're doing your job right, then your attention and your focus is on them, right? You're listening, right? That's what you're supposed to be doing, is listening to them and not paying attention to whatever you're doing. You're just supposed to be completely focused on your scene partner. Yeah.
I think also I'm less self-conscious about oh God, does the director like me? Oh my God,
Yeah.
what about, does that actress like me? She's not talking to me. What's going on? I just don't,
Yeah.
I focus on the job.
Yeah. You're not there to be liked. You're there to do your job.
You're there to do your job. And if a director is giving you a different direction, it's not a criticism.
Yeah.
Relating back to theater, it's the same damn thing. If you're in a play for 4 weeks and you have rehearsals for 2, the director's going to switch you up a gazillion times. So,
yeah.
So I guess I've just learned to stay more focused now. I don't let all that outside noise happen. You just stay focused on the work.
Well, and I think if you're happy in your personal life, then it's not going to affect your work. I think if you're still in that desperation mode and needing to prove yourself and striving for something that you so desperately want to attain, then you bring all of that onto set. But if you have a life outside of work, which I can see from your Instagram, you have a great life outside of work. You hike, you do animal rescue, like you have other things going on in your life, and that makes you a well-rounded person, which makes you a better actor and a better artist.
Exactly. And everything you're doing makes you a better artist. Having children, for example, I don't have children. I'm sure that brings a whole different skill set that, for example, I don't have.
Yeah. It does inform some of your work. I think any sort of lived experience informs your work, whatever it is.
Exactly.
Even this week I was watching a scene in class, and it was a scene from Gucci, but I didn't realize it because I haven't seen the movie, unfortunately. And it was about a divorce, and the writing was so good. I was like, oh my God, was this a conversation from my first divorce? Watching the actress play it, she did so great, but I could feel in me like, oh, this is how I would I know that feeling, and this is how I would feel in that scene. And so I think just all your life experience kind of that.
Yeah, ultimately as an actor, you have to make a choice.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if you saw, I don't know if you saw that film later and saw the actress that was doing that particular role, she probably had a different choice than you did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. I think that's what's so cool is you can have the same scene, and with a different actor, it's going to be completely different because they have different experiences. So that's going to lead them to make different choices.
Right. And you have to make a choice based on your experiences, not based on what you think the casting director wants.
Yeah.
So important.
So I want to ask you about your public relations job. Does that ever do you feel like that's been a tool that you've been able to use in your acting career? Marketing tools, public relations tools, or whether it's just knowing, working in a corporate world, it's very different than working on an actor set.
Yeah. I think from a public relations viewpoint, it is helped me with regards to how to market myself somewhat.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely helped me there. I did a lot of writing as well, of course, public relations. And also, besides public relations, I had a play produced in Los Angeles and West Palm Beach. So I think it also has helped me when I get a script and to be able to turn a sow's ear into a silk purse.
Mm-hmm.
When you get one of those scripts where you're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
This is so badly written. But you're able to look at it, I guess, from my writing perspective, my public relations perspective, that sometimes you have a disastrous problem in public relations, but you have to make it look good.
Yeah.
And I think that has really helped me when I get an audition where the script is really bad.
That's great. And then, like you said, marketing yourself maybe a little.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I've changed that somewhat over the years. I don't get political anymore. Yeah, just some stuff to use social media. Yes, as showing some activities I do, which I think are fun, but also to put your career in a positive light.
Yeah.
I've never had anybody say to me, "Oh, Charles, you just promote your career too much." I usually have people go, "What's going on? You haven't posted anything lately of what you're doing." Yes.
You got him hooked.
I got him hooked.
Well, I think it's also, I don't know, for me, it's really exciting. I can only speak for myself. I think it's really exciting to see just how much just how much work you're doing and how much your career has taken off when you came back in your 50s. And
58 to be exact.
58. Nice.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. You came back at 58 and it just hit. Like I said, like even now I'm, coming back at this in my 40s and I, it's still a lot of work for me, and I don't know. It can get frustrating at times. So to see the success that you're having is really inspiring and motivating for me.
Thank you. I always think of my career as that Langston Hughes poem that says, "What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun?" And in my case, it didn't really dry up. It stayed nice and plump, but I had to wait till 58 for it to harvest it, so to speak.
Yeah, but it was totally worth waiting for. What a wonderful gift you ended up getting, waiting all that time.
I did, and I thought about getting, pursuing a New York and LA agent, but then I thought, I think I'm busy enough here. I mean, the market here is really good, and not to mention the cost of living is much nicer here, and I've lived here longer than I've ever lived anywhere. I've lived here since '99.
Yeah.
I lived in LA for 20 years, and I've lived here, I think, 23. So, yeah, I always think of how remarkable that it was, Kismet, I guess, that I, for some reason, I got this job at CDC. I moved to Atlanta, and what happens? Hollywood comes to me. I mean, what are the odds?
Yeah. No, seriously, what are the, you just ended up at Atlanta and it literally came to you.
Yeah. So it was one of those, it was meant to be, I believe. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, not only just because like it happened to come to you, but then the proof is in the pudding. Clearly you're booking like 10 or 15 shows a year. I mean, even last year you have like a ton of credits, the year before, So yeah, it was definitely the right choice. You're killing it, and that's exciting.
Thank you.
So I always ask my guests a couple of things. Do you have any tips for anyone who is maybe thinking that they want to pick that dream back up and give it a go?
Yeah, I would say get yourself into a class. The good news is you actually, thanks to the pandemic, there's a lot of online acting classes now.
Yeah.
And really do research on who your teacher is. I know there's a couple of acting teachers, I'm using quotes with my fingers, who are ending up almost being like cultish, I guess is the word.
Yeah.
And it does not help with performances. One of my friends was in one of these acting cults, and it was actually very difficult for him to get out. When he did get out of it, he started booking again.
Yeah.
So just really research who you're working with. And 9 times out of 10, you don't really have to spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
But if you do and the teacher's good enough, go for it. So that's the first thing I would do. Just go back in and relearn the craft before you jump back in. That'd be the main thing I would say. And again, do what I didn't do in my 20s is network.
Yeah. How do you feel the best way to network is?
I think that the best way for me was acting classes.
Yeah.
And thankfully the acting classes are live again for the most part. So
Yeah.
if you're in an area where you can go to an acting class in person, I would definitely do that. I think staying socially engaged, I can't tell you how many times I've been offered roles in projects. I just got offered a role in a film, an independent film, strictly because they see your Instagram and Facebook posts. And I think it's important to continue to get yourself out there with regards to what you're doing, or in my case, what you booked as well. So, because because people get to know you as, oh, wow, he's a commodity and he might be good for my project.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point. I think what you touched on earlier is that it is important to kind of do it the right way. And you can have, a lot of casting directors will say this too, is like, you can have your personal account that's private and you can post whatever the hell you want to post on there, but then have an account that you kind of keep for the public. And, maybe it's a little bit more focused on career stuff, but you also have to show that you're a human and you have a life and you're not just like sitting at home waiting for an audition. So.
Right. And, my public image isn't big enough to, well, let's say, get political for one reason. Somebody I worked with on Preacher, and she's just fantastic. We've stayed friends, is Betty Buckley.
Okay.
She's well known on Broadway, and she does a lot of TV film. And she was also in the female lead in 8 is Enough back in the 80s, I think. And she's still very active everywhere. And she gets political in her Instagram posts, but she can do that because she's Betty Buckley.
Yeah.
And getting back to, this could be for any age, actually, but even if you're older, know whether you're an ingenue or you're a character actor. I see too many people who think they are, particularly think they're, what's the equivalent of a male ingenue? I don't know what it is. Is that?
I don't know.
Well, I'm using ingenue for male and female.
Yeah.
They think that is the roles they were meant to have, and not really being aware that they're probably a character actor. So know thyself is one of the things I would. There's some great classes. There is. I can't think of the class right now. It's the one where it helps you learn the type of roles you would be suited for.
Are you talking about the one with the SAG Foundation?
Christensen.
Okay.
Sam Christensen.
Okay.
Yeah. And I actually, when I was at Theater 40, there was a workshop done. It was like a weekend workshop where people just look at you and say, what would you cast him as? Yeah. And it's so funny because now that was in my 20s, and now in my 60s, I'm being cast in those roles. Even in my 20s, those folks were able just to identify, strictly from my look, what they would cast me as.
That is
Judge,
so funny.
Lawyer. These are the most popular ones for me. Lawyer, priest, and doctor. Those are my three. Those are the ones I'm cast the most in. But I also do other stuff too. But they did. Next Door Neighbor. I've done that. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just so. I think it's just interesting. They were able to identify my 20s what I'm doing now.
Yeah, that is super interesting. Actually, I did so SAG does the similar. It's not Sam Christensen, so I don't know exactly what his workshop is. But SAG has you are in a room with however many people, let's say 20 people, and each person goes in the middle, sits down, and you fill out essentially a survey saying like what you think that they would be cast as, what you think their age is, and whatnot. And I did that, and they tell you just to like average out the ages. At the time, I think I was 37, and I ended up getting the age range of like 37 to 40 or
interesting
41. Yeah. And I remember, I think for the most part it was spot on, but there was like one guy who like guessed I was like 55, and I was like, you know what?
Well, yeah, you know what that probably means, Liz? It probably means you're going to work when you're older.
That's what I
You work
think.
a lot.
Yeah. And that's why I bring that up, because I do think that I think for me, I'm one of those people who like my type is going to be like 50, 60-year-old woman. And I think that's probably when I'm going to work more is when I.
Well, that was the good news. I mean, I always knew that I was a character actor. And the funny thing is when I was, even in when it's a teenager and in college, I always played like older men. You know?
Oh yeah,
I know all about old age makeup, and now I am that age, and I'm working.
Now you don't need the makeup.
I don't need the makeup anymore. So I'm thankful that I knew myself in that sense, that I was a character actor, that I was never going to be that leading young man.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that you know yourself.
Yeah. I knew I wasn't a lead, but I thought, but I just didn't understand where I fit in. Like I figured I was like the friend or whatever, but I didn't like quite understand that was like character actor. Like to me, I think I thought a character actor is like someone who's like real crazy and real bold, which is actually how I am with my friends and family and when I'm doing improv, like I'm doing the characters and stuff. But for acting, I don't know. I was like, oh no, that's too much. I have to like, be, especially in my 20s, like, oh, be pretty. Okay. What does that mean?
Yeah.
I felt like
I just and I never felt myself like, oh God, I can't wait to get up on that stage and accept that Academy Award. I never felt that. I like, first off, I like my privacy. I can't imagine being some of these stars and they can't go anywhere, the grocery store, or anything without being mobbed or, photos taken of them on the beach or whatever. And I was like, that is not the life for me. I just want to be in the background, steadily working, one of those like, where have I seen him before people?
Yeah. Did I go to high school with you? Yeah.
Yeah.
We had the same church.
Yeah. You look familiar. And I'm just fascinated by that. Like I'll watch an older film. Yeah. And I have IMDb on my phone. And so I'll look up that film and go, who is that character? I've seen him before. And I'll look and I'll go, Jesus, he's got 210 credits. I went, that's what I want to be.
Oh yeah.
That's the goal. Well, I don't know if 210 credits is the goal. That'd be nice. I don't have time in my life to do that. But to be that type of person who consistently works, but it's okay if he's in the background.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's kind of like a sweet spot where you consistently work, but it doesn't overtake your entire life.
Right.
I mean, it would be amazing if I could have that kind of role. Stephen Root, you know who Stephen Root is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Love him.
He's an amazing character actor, I mean, now he's a little bit more known because he's gotten so good at it, but like that's the kind of I'm sure he can go to the grocery store and he's just fine.
Right. Right. Yeah, he's not going to be mobbed.
Yeah.
And I can take pictures of him in his bathing suit on a beach,
Yeah.
They're not going to stalk him.
Yeah.
And I love it. Yeah, Stephen Root's fantastic.
Yeah. And that's
fantastic.
kind of like the model career. I'm like, oh, that would be amazing to have a career like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can get on the Stephen Root train easy. Like that's what I want to be. And I also as I mentioned, when I was in my 20s, I got stereotyped by my commercial and theatrical agent to be business suited nerd with glasses. And when I sat down with these agents in 2013, I told them that story and I said, I don't want to be that way. I need to be sent in on a variety of roles, everything from, doctor, lawyer, I'll accept that. But also, homeless person. And, this character I played in Apple TV's Blackbird, the father of a serial killer, and which was so rewarding because it was just so different from anything I've done. I'm an asshole in it. I'm just mean.
Yeah.
And my agent, I guess it's important to find an agent that honors your wishes.
Yeah.
And because if I played, like one of my friends said, yeah, I don't care. If I'm known to be the cop and everybody just says, well, let's call me in for the cop, I'm okay with that. And I thought, that's boring. Play the cop all the time.
Yeah.
I like variety. And by the way, he's changed his mind about that.
Oh, yeah.
He got a little tired of playing the cop all the
Yeah.
time. So I think he's also redefined himself in other roles as well.
Yeah. So one of the other questions I ask my guests is, what does, now that you have this career, what does making it mean to you? Maybe now versus when you were in your 20s.
I guess making it is the satisfaction that I'm doing good work, and the proof of that is that I'm cast consistently.
Yeah.
Proof that I can have a career my way, have a life and a career, and part of that career is to explore a variety of roles. I'm big into research. Even before I start working on a script, I do a lot of research. That could be, for example, a doctor with big words, and I'll go down the rabbit hole of research on just one big doctor role. If like the character I played in Richard Jewell was a real person, and to be able to look that person up and to do research and get into the mind of that person. I played the Grand Dragon of the KKK of South Carolina one time, and a real person, and to be able to do that research and get into it, I think is one of the most rewarding things. And I don't know if I would have done that in my 20s as much.
Yeah.
So, to experience, it's helped me experience other life experiences that aren't my own. Whether the character be real or fictional. Yeah. So that's to me, that's also making it to understand human nature better.
Yeah.
And understand that people are different, and how can you become, I want to say tolerant, I don't know if that's the right word, accepting of the fact that based on different backgrounds, people are going to be different.
Yeah.
So I think also making it is just understanding more about human nature and accepting it.
Well, when you research the characters, you kind of start to understand where they're coming from. And even if they're people who are doing horrible things,
yes,
you can kind of start to see why they ended up there and why they're making their choices. The whole notion of like hurt people and all that. And, it doesn't give them an excuse, but it kind of makes you understand how they got there, and they're not just born a monster,
right,
or they're not just born an asshole.
That was the reason they're an asshole. And also, as an actor, you can't be judgmental about the character playing.
Yes,
the second you are, it's not going to be truthful.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing, right? They say like with villains is the villain doesn't think that they're a villain. They're completely justified. They're in their actions that they're taking. They're protecting their family, or they're protecting themselves, or whatever it is, whatever reason that they behave the way they do, believe that they are doing the right thing.
Right.
By themselves, at least, know? So you can't play that. You can't look at the character that you're playing as a bad person, because they don't look at themselves as a bad person. So
right.
Yeah, that's important for you to be able to see inside of that.
Getting back to the character playing Richard Jewell, one of my friends here that lives in my condo complex says, my mother keeps saying to me, why are you friends with that guy? He's such a bad person. Strictly on that one role, because she hated the character, which I thought I played sympathetically, but she still think I did a bad thing, turning Richard Jewell into the FBI.
Oh, that is so funny.
Accusing him of probably being the Olympic bomber, which of course he was not.
Yeah.
So I thought, I did it. I made the character truthful, but she still hates me. So, truthful that she thinks I'm real.
That's great. That's probably the biggest compliment.
It was. I said that. I said, that is the biggest compliment I could have, is somebody is really thinking I am that person.
What has been your favorite role that you've played now that you're having the career that you always wanted? What has been your favorite role?
Wow.
Or maybe it's a type of role, but
Let me think. I guess, well, probably, I guess it could be the Frank Hall role on Apple TV's Blackbird, because I don't speak much in it. But there's a lot of what do you call it? I'm silent on camera, but there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
In my feelings. And,
yeah.
And it was such a 180 from what I normally do. Mm-hmm. I really liked watching myself and stuff, but that one I kind of forgot it was me for a second. So probably that one.
Yeah.
The best experience I've ever had with an actor was in the Underground Railroad. Aaron Pierre, who was the male lead in it, he and I had a one-on-one scene, which unfortunately got cut. But I've never worked with an actor in TV film where all of a sudden everything went away. Yeah. It was just him. He is such a giving actor. I get emotional thinking about him. He's great. And I so wish it had made the screen, because boy, I mean, it was one of those things where we both finished, we realized something special had happened, and this has never happened before. We actually hugged each other. Oh. Yeah, it was just this, he is a tremendous actor. Look him up. His name is Aaron Pierre. He's really up and coming. I think he's going to be part of the Marvel Universe soon, and fantastic theater actor from London. And of course, he had to do a Southern accent, and Underground Railroad, those British people, they could just, a Southern accent is a derivation of a British accent. So I think it's always easy for Southerners to do a British accent and vice versa because of that. Yeah. Well, I mean, here you are playing all these British characters, right? So, yeah. Well, this has been so awesome. That was a really beautiful share, and this conversation has been really great. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me this morning. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else. I think we covered it all. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. I heard Betty Monroe's interview. She's a really good interviewer. She makes you feel comfortable. So I really want to thank you for that. And I've really enjoyed quite a few of your podcasts I've listened to. Oh, thank you. And learned a lot as well from my fellow over 40 actors. Yes. Yeah. It's been really fun. I really love connecting people and feeling connected to people, and because this industry can get really lonely and feel really harsh sometimes. It can, and the one thing I want to say about the Atlanta community, they so embrace and support each other. Yeah, there never seems to be any rivalry. I did feel that a lot when I was in LA. You go to a callback and somebody sitting across from you that's auditioned for the same role trying to psych you out. Yeah. There's none of that here. Here it's like you walk in, it's your friend, he's up against you for the same role, and you're like, hey, how are you doing? I think that's the other thing I've learned as an older actor, that there's room for everybody. Yeah, I do think you're not competing really against anybody. As long as you are who you are, you're unique and special. Yeah, and there's that adage that people say is like, if the role's meant for you, there's nothing that you can do to not get it. It'll be yours. But if it's not meant for you, you're never going to get it. And that's just the way that it goes. So. Right. But if you're always doing your best, even in audition, casting directors will remember you. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Charles. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate everything that you shared. I'll see you online. All right. Take care. All right. Bye. Thank you all for listening to this week's episode. Be sure to follow Charles on Instagram at Hotlantaguy. That's HOTLANTAGUY. And check him out in Blackbird on Apple TV.
Please, if you're enjoying the show, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. And hey, if you want to support the show, you can use the link in the show notes to buy me a coffee. I will happily accept your contribution. Be sure to follow the show on Instagram at makingitafter40, the number 40, and to catch up on what I'm doing when I'm not podcasting, check out my Instagram at Lisa Rodriguez. Thank you everyone for listening, and have an excellent week.